Hi, welcome to Don's Manufactory. The springs have arrived. What do I need springs for? I've been driving the car and everything. Well, I'm an idiot. Okay. Maybe not an idiot, but you know, there are times when I do really stupid things. These are 390 with air conditioning 67 Mustang springs. This here is the spring that I got out of a 67 390, or it might have been a 68, I don't remember, at the wrecking yard, 390 with air conditioning. So back in the 70s, I picked that up. Now this is the spring that I was running up until just 3 weeks ago. But as you can see, I cut some off, and I cut too much off. I find it very curious that when I was all done, the springs from the 70s that I cut down and the ones that I cut too much are exactly the same length. I just wanted to set the stance on the car, and I was going to drop it just a little bit, and I cut too much off these springs, and so now it sits way too low. Has less than an inch of travel. And how did I make that mistake? I forgot about the fact that the springs sit at about the 60% mark from the ball joint. So naturally, nearly twice as much ride height came off as what I anticipated. This is the first time I've worked on Betsy for almost 3 weeks. Well, 2.5 weeks, I'll say. The reason is that I have spent a couple of weeks ordering parts and returning them. So what I ended up doing after cutting these springs too short was I ordered a replacement set, and I figured, well, heck, I just got these from CJ's. I should be able to just order the same part number again and get the same spring, and then I'll be right back where I started. Not true. A completely different spring came. I don't know. You think they sent me the wrong spring? They looked very similar to these, except that they were a smaller diameter, as in the diameter across here was smaller. Neither end was treated for the flat end, and so I just decided, if you know what I mean, it wasn't flattened, ground and smushed down flat to give you that flat end that goes up in the top of the shock tower. Anyway, so I couldn't use those, so I had to send them back. Maybe I'll get a set of them Scott Drake 600 pound per inch springs. And I figured, well, I'll just take a shot at it and let's see if those are the springs that I got the first time. Well, they came in and they looked a lot like these. In fact, they were exactly the same length as the cut off one. So, couldn't use them because the car sat just as low as these springs did. So I had to send those back. So my next thing was to order these, which are Eaton 390 with air conditioning springs. Now, the whole point is that those original springs that I got out of the wrecking yard, that's what they were. And I cut them to set the right height. And I figured, okay, I can't buy the springs I had before, and I could just shoot myself for cutting them, and I should have just left them alone. Anyway, so this is my next best approach, is to get a set of 390 with air conditioning springs and then cut them to length, and then I should be good, right? Should be easy. Well, in my last video I was talking about the problem with the ball joints not having enough travel on the new control arms. Well, now I'm up against that dilemma. How am I going to sort of sneak up on the ride height? I don't want to cut too much off. I just want to sort of sneak up to it. But there won't be a shock in there, and the springs will have a lot of pressure and be pushing against the ball joint at the end of its travel. So I'll end up ruining the ball joint in the new control arms trying to get the right height set. Well, how am I going to approach this? I could put my old modified swing arms back in there, control arms, that won't have a problem with binding on the ball joint. Use those to set the right height. Then I have to go back to the Total Control Products control arm. Or I would have to modify the control arm, the Total Control Products control arm, so that it would accept the ball joint, the OEM ball joint that has more travel. And I kind of want to do that anyway. But what that requires is cutting off the top of the cup that the ball joint goes into, that I drilled and put the Zerk fitting in. I would have to cut that off and extend it about 1/4 of an inch so there's enough room for that OEM ball joint to get up in there. I kind of want to do that anyway because it solves this whole issue of having a ball joint that doesn't have enough travel. You know, I thought about a camber. You know, they make those little camber wedges, but those are for the wrong direction. Anyway, so that's what I'm up against today. I can't just do the job because I'll end up ruining the ball joint. So I either have to go back to my old ones or modify the new ones so that the old ball joints, the OEM ball joints fit. And something inside me says, that's what you should do. So anybody that buys this car after I'm dead, they can just go to the local parts house and say, I need a pair of ball joints for a 66 Mustang, and they buy them and they bolt them in and they work. Another thing that I could try, I haven't tried this yet, is cutting a 2x4 so that I can just slide it in on top of the frame rail and have that stop the arm before the ball joint. So essentially that becomes the new stop. Then I can go ahead and use the spring compressor to put the springs in naturally because the arms are going to be way up further than they need to be. I've sort of enjoyed the fact that with my modified arms here, I could just take the shock out. The arm would swing all the way down to the frame, and I could just grab the spring and pull it out without using a compressor. So I've been putting springs in and out of the car without using a compressor for, a year and a half. And now suddenly I'm going to have to use the compressor to get it together, but whatever. Okay. So I guess maybe that's what I'll try first, because that is the most expedient. Okay, anyway, that's my dilemma for today, and it's just a whole bunch of hubble-baloo, whatever. More trouble than it should be, and all because the ball joints don't have enough travel. As soon as you deviate from stock, the amount of work required and all the stuff you have to do just goes up exponentially. And all I can say is it sure as hell better be worth it when I'm all said and done. And even saying all of that, I think what I'm going to end up doing is using these upper control arms just to find out where to put the front end so that I like the way that it handles. Because they are so adjustable, I can move them around, do whatever. And when I find the spot that I really like and the car handles really good, then I will modify the control arms that I already modified. I will modify them again in order to move the ball joint into that position for the caster setting that I decide on. And then I can just use the original control arms. Of course, solves all of the ball joint travel problems and everything else that goes along with the Total Control products. I've already modified these control arms to the point where I can't send them back. So, I don't know. It's a lot of damn money just to use as a tool to dial in the suspension when I just want where I'm going to end up using my own design in the end Anyway, okay. It's a learning curve. And I guess learning is expensive. All right, well, Betsy's back on the ground. I just took her for a quick little spin around the block just to make sure that things were in the right place so that I could take it for an alignment on Monday, which I've already got an appointment for. I ended up just cutting the springs and getting them in. I hope I didn't cut too much off. They have actually sagged way more, or shall I call it settled, way more than I expected already. It's only been in the car for maybe 4 or 5 hours, and it's already settled 1/4 inch. So it's not too bad though. Just for a frame of reference, it's 24 inches from the lip, the center of the lip of the wheel opening to the ground. It required these spacers raising up the shock in order to stop those Total Control products control arms from bottoming out on the travel of the ball joint. So without these, I would probably break a ball joint, and you would too. That was really required in order to use those control arms and not do damage. Sorry, I didn't video any of the work or any of that stuff. I may do something later to show you what all happened. But I'm just so pissed with myself that I cut those springs and sort of sent myself down this path of 3 weeks worth of work just because I'd made that stupid mistake. Anyway, thanks for watching Don's Manufactory, and I'll keep you posted on how things go after Monday's alignment. Maybe I'll have good news about the way Betsy handles. Okay, catch you later.